Welcome to the projection booth. Today I'm going to show you how to disassemble a heavy 40-minute 35mm projection reel down to a 20-minute 35mm shipping reel. I'm going to show you how to do this using a film bench and how to use a 35mm film splicer. If you are new to this channel, I highly recommend you subscribe and watch my other videos on projection, including how to run a 35mm projector. Let's get started. In a projector changeover system, you want to have as few changeovers as possible to reduce the amount of possible failures that could occur during a changeover. A 35mm 40-minute projection reel is designed to hold twice the amount of normal shipping reels, which in this case, a shipping reel and most shipping reels are 20-minute based. A 35mm 20-minute shipping reel is designed to be easy to ship cross-country. In this case, and how they used to come, are in these 35mm film containers. These things are the real deal. They're designed to survive any impact. They also weigh a ton. Some reasons you might not want to use this on a projector, not only because of the length, it's because these are normally pretty crappy. You can see these are just made of plastic. And you don't want that to be on your projector. You want something more like this one, which is solid aluminum. Also, these reels simply do not work on certain projectors such as ours, which has a small spindle size right here on the reel. Meanwhile, on our normal projector spindles, they are double the size, and we'll go into this in a little bit. This is a 35mm film splicer. It is designed to cut and attach 35mm film. In this case, when we are assembling or disassembling a 35mm reel, you're going to need to tape it, which, this is the tape, and do it a proper fashion that won't interrupt the picture or get stuck. This is designed so that not only is there a cut motion, but also, it's hard to see, it's also supposed to be a punch motion. So you can see the blade and the teeth. They go right through those holes right there. We also have a 70mm film splicer that works for 5 perf, 15 perf, and any 70mm film. Obviously in this video we're not using 70mm film, so we won't use, but the mechanics are exactly the same. We have the motion to chop the film we've taped. We also have a film cutter right here that works much like those paper cutters you might have seen in classrooms that just cut the film very sharply, cleanly, in a straight manner. The first thing required to do is setting up the film bench properly. In this case, we have 2 spindle sizes. We have a larger spindle size, which is designed for our projection 40-minute reels, and we have a smaller spindle designed for the shipping reels, 35mm 20-minute reels. So in this case, we just take the one we want and we stick it in. You wait for the click. Now it's in. We chose the larger one for the 40-minute 35mm reel, and we place back the one we're not using. On the power side of the film bench, we're gonna do the exact same thing, except this time we're gonna take the smaller spindle, because this side is what we're building on. In this case, it's gonna be the shipping reel. Lock in, and we're good. Of course, the next part involves putting the reel on each spindle. In this case, we grab our massive 40-minute reel that weighs quite a bit. What we want to search for is the film hanging. When you have the film hanging, see that film hanging? You want it to always hang to the left. This is because this will matter for directions. We don't want to cross-wound the film, which means it is the correct direction but on the wrong side, aka flipped 180 degrees. Push it in, now it's hanging. On the powered side, it's a lot simpler. We just take the empty reel, stick it on our spindle, spin it around until it locks in, and now you can feel it and the tension on it. The next important step is the diagonal form. So we pull the film, so you make a diagonal here, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it on the reel over here. And this is important for this direction, because if we do it such as directly across like this, or if we flipped it the other direction, did it all the way across, it would cross-wound it. It's not something we want to do. So what we want to do is we want to put it on the reel over here. And what we do next is, holding it down with some force, slowly start spinning it. Now it's important we keep track of where that end is, because we're going to, when it makes a full first rotation, we're going to hold it, and we're going to keep cranking it. And we're going to do that for a number of rotations. And as you can see, we're slowly going through. I'm going to remove this piece of tape. We don't want that being stored with the film. And we're just going to keep spinning it for a bit until it seems to start holding some tension. So I'm cranking this now, as you can see, it's actually starting to hold tension. That's what you want. Before we start using the film bench, we should go over how to use our Kelmar RTV 8900. Essentially, all this thing does is have a powered motor that spins. We have some basic controls, however, such as the direction, which is off, which is center, reverse, and forward. Usually, we always use forwards here because we just don't have a use for reverse. The next one is the on switch. We pull the on up, you wait a second, you can see our light turned on up here. This is what we use for when we're examining the film. We're not using that at the moment, so I'm just turning it off. And lastly, we have our mode, which is manual versus auto. Auto simply means it will stop on its own, which is great, especially when we use the arm over here, which we'll go over in a moment. Manual means we can manually turn it on and crank the speed up. Lastly, the all-important stop button. You push this, kills it. And of course, we have the active light here showing that when our motor is active. We also have the speed dial. In this case, the speed is in speed. So we can go from 0 speed to 100 speed. Obviously, that's not what it is, but this is just a percentage. So we can turn this all the way up to 50, which is generally where we don't want to go any farther, all the way up to 100. Now, it's a nice little note here is this little arrow right here. You can actually feel with your finger. Usually, in the dark, it's great, because you can put your finger right there and you crank it, and we know 50's at the middle, and crank all the way 100 if so desired. Always turn it down, we're done. I'm going to first show you how to use the auto mode of the bench. So what you want to do here is make sure it's in auto mode, because if it's not, this won't work. Once we're on mode, we're going to pick up the film, then we're going to take the arm and crank it all the way up. So you hear the click. Hear the click? That's great. Now when you bring it back down, you're going to notice it stops right about there. We're going to leave the film rested on here, and we're going to crank up the slide. Excuse me. We're going to have it on the bottom, we're going to crank up the slide. You can see now it's ready to start going. Lastly, we're going to turn up the speed. You're probably wondering, how do you know when to stop? Because a 20-minute reel won't be able to hold an entire thing of a 40-minute reel. Well, it's very simple. We're going to watch the 20-minute reel till it's getting towards the top. At that point, you're going to want to watch the film for a splice. Now, when the splice is going by quickly, it can be difficult. So what we're looking for is either a yellow splice, which is called a zebra tape splice, which basically denotes it and makes it easier for us. The better way, an easier way, to tell when a splice is coming or has come is either through listening or by feeling. You can feel film splices when it comes by, such as taking a glove and holding it across the film. You can feel this because film is completely smooth, but when there's a splice, there's going to be this tiny little bump. And that tiny little bump is very audible, and definitely you can feel it. At this point in time, cotton gloves are very well recommended when handling any sort of film. The reason is because there's a lot of oils on our hands that can get on the film. And what these do is these prevent that, and also prevents any dirt or other things that could get on the film. Once we have found the splice, we hit the stop button, and now we rewind it a bit because it is past. Aha, here we are. Here's our yellow splice, designating the beginning of reel 8, end of reel 7. The next step is removing the tape from the film. In this case, it's very straightforward. all you do is you scrape at it until the tape starts peeling, and you peel the tape off. Now we put splices on each side. So what we're gonna then do is the same thing, but now that it's foldable, to see how it bends nice and easy, we can just pull until the film comes off. Then we take it off from this side too. Now we have two ends, or one beginning and one end of the film. What we're gonna then wanna do is get what's called the head. The head, or leader, is the top of the projection reel. It helps projectionists know how to thread up the projector when doing changeovers, protects the actual film, and designates which reel. In this case, this one's for reel 8. We simply took this off, and as you can see here, we can take this out. We're gonna open it up a bit, and look at this. It says Apollo 13 reel 8, which is exactly what we want. So I'm gonna find the end of this that connects to it, and we're gonna splice it on. We have found the very end of the head. In this case, you can see a few frames of the film. What we want to do is we want to check this against the actual reel, because these should always match, otherwise we got the wrong reel. In this case, it's a good thing I checked, because I forgot we started with the reel heads up reel 7. So now this is tails up reel 7. So we actually want reel 7. In this case, this is exactly the same. Now it says Apollo 13, reel 7. We're gonna take the end of reel 7, or in this case, tail of reel 7, and we are going to, again, compare it to the end. Look at this. This time they match. Wonderful. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna splice them together. To use the splicer, it's very straightforward. You make sure the directions line up and the sound lines up. You see the little sound on the edges right there? Kind of hard to see. Yep, see those sounds there? They're beautiful. Those need to line up. And then we press them on to lock into the little pins. There's a red line right here. We want the red line to line up. We're gonna also do that the same on the other side. Once you have both films lined up, right in the center, see how it looks fine without the tape? We're gonna take the tape, make sure it doesn't move, press down. Then we rub it in to make sure it's all nice and sticky. And lastly, the fun part, we close it, push down hard till you hear a click, or a cut in that case. Pull it back up, and you can see, wow, it's on there. Now, what we want to do is you also want to splice the other side. So in this case, we flip the film 180 degrees. So now we're on the opposite side. Press it back down again, and we're just going to do the same thing. Tape, rub it in, cut it, and now we have a splice piece of 35mm motion picture film. Now the important thing is that we want to check for an arc. So see, when I do that, we see a nice arc. That means the film has been spliced well and it's not a sharp corner. We do it the same. See, look at that. The splice is a perfect arc, as if we never even cut it. See, normal film acts like that. This is good. That means the splice is good and we can finish up this reel. With that being said, we now have a 20-minute shipping reel. In this case, Apollo 13, reel number 7. Take the film, and we place it inside the film holder. Look at that, fits right in, snug as a bug. Take out the next one. Rinse and repeat. Now that we were able to convert a 40-minute projection reel back down into its original 20-minute shipping reel, we have completed our task, and we are now ready to do the reverse for another film. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.